This is a world that is dominated by monsters, a place where the strong rule, and those with more than 60% rune spirit have a chance to become a rune master. As for our MC, he has a rune spirit at 27%, and he not only wants to become a rune master, but also a rune king, one that stands at the pinnacle of the world. Everything began in the year 2030. Humans had no idea what they were in for, but disaster was about to descend. That year, numerous wormholes appeared in the sky, with countless meteors falling from it and destroying the human civilization. Humans were completely helpless in front of such a disaster, and only less than 30% of the human population survived after the end of the meteor's descent 3 months later. Just when humans thought they had survived, something worse happened. A large number of creatures, known as rune monsters, invaded Earth through the wormholes. They were savage and ruthless, wreaking havoc wherever they landed, and even Earth's strongest weapons couldn't hurt the higher-ranked rune monsters. Humans were in constant terror, as even their homes were destroyed, and they had to hide in fear. That is until rune hunters arrived at the scene. They were able to use rune energy and rune stones to become stronger, and then humans started fighting back against the monsters to protect their last safe place, and built a rune energy barrier that could keep monsters out and allow regular people to survive. But the war between humans and rune monsters is still raging on. A middle-aged man passes a package to a young man, who carefully places it inside a locker on his bike and gets on it, telling the middle-aged man to leave it to him and then speeding off, all ready for work. The young man is on his way to deliver the package and is thinking about how much money he will make from it and how he'll buy his little sister her favorite doll, when a bright light shines on his face and he looks up and sees a squad car, with officers telling him to park for a routine check, and he panics because he knows what he has in his bike is illegal and would give him a bar time of at least 3 years. So he swerves by the car and speeds into an alley, while the officer shouts for him to stop and calls for backup on his radio and begins to chase after him. He goes through a series of bends, and the officers have lost sight of him when he looks behind and smirks, saying they can keep dreaming of catching him. But what he doesn't notice is the banana peel right in front of him. He's thrown off his bike and is complaining of his luck while getting up when he notices the package he had been transporting is open and 2 eggs are laying on the side. He is surprised because he recognizes they are rune monster eggs, and now understands why Brother Lou, the middle-aged guy, gave him such a high price for the delivery, because if one is caught with them, it won't be as simple as just a few years in prison. He picks up the eggs and is grateful that they are fine at least, till he notices the space in the box. One of the eggs is missing. He calls out to it while looking around. He turns left and sights it in an old trash box. He rushes forward and grabs it, holding it up above his head, and he notices a hole in it and thinks if it will hatch. An attack comes from behind him and he reacts, quickly ducking forward. It is the bone-piercing spider, a C-rank monster that likes to entangle its prey with its webs and then torture them before eating their hearts. He pulls out a dagger and jumps forward towards the monster while dodging the web coming straight at him, and slams his dagger into the spider's head, but it doesn't pierce through because of its carapace. He holds his trembling right hand and comments on how even though it had just hatched, a normal weapon couldn't even scratch its outer shell. The spider screeches and tears towards him and is about to pierce him with its legs when he activates his most powerful skill and runs away with all his might. But where he's headed is quickly blocked by the spider's web and he is left with nowhere to run. Something sticky entangles his right leg and he is drawn towards the spider. As he gets dragged closer and closer to the spider, he repeatedly tries to cut the web with his dagger, but it is no use. He is brought before the spider and the spider lifts his leg and we hear a stabbing sound with blood splashing. He opens his eyes and he is stuck with spider web hanging on the pole while bleeding, and he thinks of his fate after being beaten by a baby spider and questions if he's destined to be just a normal human and not a rune master. He is losing a lot of blood and is getting delirious when he remembers that he hasn't avenged his parents and opens his previously slowly closing eyes. Says he's not willing to die there. A message flashes before him and he's asked if he's willing to take the chance to change his fate, and he screams that he's willing to do anything if he can become a rune master and take revenge for his parents. The message shows that the system is loading, and then it finishes loading and scans his body, detecting how weak it is, and grants him 10 free attribute points. His status screen is displayed before him and we see his name is Dongze and he's at level 1 with a 27% rune spirit. His other stats are also shown, and he's surprised that it looks like the games he used to play, and thinks that since he lacks strength, he should put all his free points to strength. And he notices that the points affect his body in real time. He receives a daily mission to defeat the bone-piercing spider to get a potion that can increase rune spirits as a reward. He thinks it's unbelievable, but if there's a chance to become stronger, he will fight with everything he has. And he bursts forth with energy that flips the spider over. He notices that he's stronger than ever before, but knows defeating the spider is still not going to be easy. He calms down and begins to think, and remembers that all rune masters have weak points. The spider's weak point was fire. He looks around and sees his bike and remembers it has gasoline. While he's thinking, the spider rams towards him, and he jumps aside toward the bike and kicks it to the spider. The gasoline spills, but the spider is still away from it. He knows the spider relies on vibrations to locate its prey, so he throws a stone into the spilled gasoline, and the spider rushes forward towards it. Just as planned, he throws a lighter and he pulls up to an apartment and walks up the stairs, thinking of how unbelievable the system is and how he can become a rune master. He reaches his door while thinking of what to do with the eggs. He heard that eating rune master's flesh could enhance the human physique. Immediately he opens the door, he sees his little sister, Bai Xiaoji, who's 8 years old, sitting on her wheelchair, and she welcomes him home and asks if he got hurt because he was dusty and injured. And he just tells her not to worry because he just fell off his motorcycle. She presses on that he has blood all over his shirt, and he replies that it's just paint that got on him when he fell down. She then excitedly asks him about how he got so muscular, and he notices that his body had become toned and attributes it to the attributes he put into strength. But he can't say that, so he coughs and says it must be a result of all his training. He then pulls out a dinosaur doll and tells her to look what he got her. She is very happy and hugs the doll while asking if he got rich. And he tells her that's too small, that he's going to be a rune master, and gets her legs cured. His sister stops smiling and she asks if he hit his head when he fell down. Sweat rolls down Dongze's face and he asks what, and then hums, saying she'll believe him soon. They start eating their dinner, a strawberry cake, and Dongze thinks about Xiaoji and how she lost all sensations in her legs after that disaster, and thinks about how lucky they are compared to those who died, but how they've still had it tough. But all that will change when he becomes a rune master with the help of the system. Rune masters are the richest people in this era. They can join the military and get huge benefits, or join companies with a vice president position, salaries at millions already prepared for them. They could even organize their own team to hunt rune beasts in the wild, which they can sell to earn a ton of money. And Dongse repeats that he will definitely become a rune master. At the Flying Donkey Logistics Company, we see the middle-aged man who gave Dongse the package getting beaten and his employees cowering at the side. He shouts that he really doesn't know where the goods are, but the gangsterly looking guy isn't having it and threatens that if he doesn't see the goods by tonight, he won't live to see tomorrow's sun. Then a man wearing shades steps up and asks the shop owner how he intends to deal with the situation. And the shop owner spills that he gave the goods to Dongse to deliver, but hasn't been able to reach him, so he might have been caught by the police. Jia Wenlong, the owner of Huangshi's area black boxing, who's wearing the shades, tells him to pray that that's not the case because the buyer isn't someone any of them could offend. And the shop owner begs for another day so he could personally find the goods and bring them to him. But Jia Wenlong tells him he has done enough and says he will send his men to find Dongse. But the shop owner says that Dongse is just a student and doesn't need him to personally take action. But he gets whacked by one of the thugs by the side and is told to just give them the information and not to tell them what to do. The shop owner buckles under pressure and spills everything he knows, and they decide to go and find Dongse the next day. The next morning, Dongse leaves their home while reminding Xiaoji not to open the door for strangers, and tells her that he'll cook her favorite sugar-fried chestnut when he gets back, and Xiaoji yells with joy. Dongse heads off to school and greets his neighbors on the way, then starts to think of ways to dispose the eggs, but he doesn't notice someone creeping up on him from behind. A hand reaches out to him and is about to grab him when he turns to the left and grabs the hand. The person shouts and begs for him to spare him, and Dongse asks why he was sneaking up on him. We find out it's Dongse's friend, who had to use the alley because he couldn't find a toilet nearby. Dongse says it's disgusting and rapidly lets go of his hand and starts to walk off, with his friend trying to catch up and telling him not to be like that. They walk together side by side to school, and right before they get to school, a window appears in front of Dongse. giving him a daily mission to chase away the gangsters that came to cause trouble, and the reward is one rune energy development potion. Gangsters? Dongse is taken aback and looks ahead to see two gangsters ahead, right in front of the school gate. And we remember that they are the same ones who beat up the store owner previously. Dongse's friend quickly recognizes them as Fatty Dragon and Morning and asks what they are doing there, and Dongse asks if he knows them, and he says of course and explains that they are Huangshi area's famous local gangsters. Dongse realizes that he isn't a match for them and decides to avoid them, but a loud sound draws everyone's attention. A girl with pink hair shouting at the two gangsters while the gangsters are wearing evil grins. Dongse's glasses-wearing friend points out that it's Sister King, their friend, that's in that situation and asks what they should do. And Dongse replies that there's no need to ask and picks up a brick and says let's go. But the friend disagrees and says it's better to call the police. But Dongse says there's no time to wait and smashes the brick on the head of the bigger gangster, Fatty Dragon. Somehow, the gangster doesn't pass out and just says ouch. And he and his man turns around and says how dare he attack them. Dongse just tells them to get their dirty hands off her. The girl, Sister King, calls out his name in a questioning tone and tells him to run away because he's not their match. The gangster smiles and says so he's to win, and the other says they came here specifically for him and throws a punch. Dongse dodges the punch and thinks they must definitely be there for the rune beast eggs. He is able to dodge because he had put all his points to agility and can now even counterattack. The brick lands on Morning's face and he starts to reason how a young student could be that strong, while Fatty Dragon goes to capture Sister King since he noticed Dongse cared about her. A kick connects to his face and Dongse laughs at him for underestimating her when she's even stronger than him. The gangsters get furious and decide not to show any mercy anymore and unleash their F-rank rune master powers. Zowen zooms forward and gives Fatty Dragon a punch in the gut, but it's totally blocked. He's shocked that his attack can't even touch his body. While everyone is distracted, the two gangsters are hit in the back of the head with a pole. They turn around while asking who dared to attack them when they see Zhao Wude, Dao He King's father, and he criticizes them for bullying the weak instead of protecting them like real rune masters should. The next day, in Dongse's school, a teacher slams a stack of papers down on a table and shouts at the students for getting a question he had talked about many times wrong, and then tells Dongse to stand up and answer the question. What attributes does runestones have? Dongse gets up and says they are divided into three types because they are gotten from rune beasts and act as conductors for their rune energy. The red ones are known as weapon stones and have inscriptions that can be embedded into weapons, turning them into the weapon itself when injected with rune energy. The blue ones are called Talisman stones and can be engraved with special patterns which can be embedded into the weapons to activate specific runestone skills. And the green runestones are similar to red runestones but can only be used on armor and other items. Red and green runestones can be used in place of each other because of different inscriptions. He says they can only rely on one type of runestone to fight with rune beasts, and that's the rune master's strongest weapon. The teacher lauds Dongse answering the question correctly and finds it a pity that his runestone spirit is too low and he won't be able to become a rune master, and then tells the class to study by themselves before leaving. A scene unfolds just as the teacher leaves the class. Two boys surround another male student, gazing on the student and talking bad about Dongse, how he won't be able to get into Rune Master College because of his low rune spirit, and the student starts to brag. Dongse's glasses-wearing friend, who's by his right side, leans in and tells him that the student's capability is low and he will be eaten by rune beasts very quickly, so he doesn't know why he's so happy. But Dongse says that both of his parents are rune masters and he would be able to find a good job in the city. Meanwhile, a girl approaches the group of glazing students. It's Sister King, who's sporting the pink hair, and she tells them how only the truly brave ones can become rune masters and advises him to take the path of humans and go into the wild instead of being a coward hiding in the city. And the student shouts out her full name and asks who she's calling a coward, and she says it's him and he should challenge her if he's not happy, but he grits his teeth and refuses, and she tells him to scram if he doesn't dare to fight. Then the student dashes out the classroom and yells that he will make all three of them pay. That's including Dongse and his glasses-wearing friend Zhao Ziqing. And Dongse asks what he did. The glasses-wearing friend praises Sis King. She says her dad said the blood of the strong isn't shed for weaklings, and that's why she hates cowards. Then Dongse asks if she would like to spar with him in the virtual place. She agrees and they head to the virtual capsule. They connect into the virtual practice area and Sis King and Glasses are together walking down a forest path. And and Glasses asks her if they aren't too conspicuous walking out in the open like that, and she replies that Dongse is a Runestone sniper who is skilled in hiding, and the only way they could lure him out of his hiding spot was to walk in the open. And Glasses is shocked and asks where the bait is, and Sis King replies that he is, and the sniper beam grazes past his face at that moment, and he's begging for Dongse to spare him when he realizes that he missed. But Sis King tells him that he didn't, and he's just telling him to back off. She then pulls out her rune weapon, which is a staff embedded with 2 runestones, and is eager to see who would win. Dongse is perched on a tree and fires off a bullet headed straight for Sis King. She uses a runestone skill, quick dodge, and jumps backward, using her eyes to track the bullet trajectory, and finds Dongse through the tree leaves. She instantly approaches the tree and uses another skill, wide angle flash, to break apart the tree. Insta aim, a runestone sniper skill, is used from a blind spot, and a bullet traces her chest, and she is locked out of the virtual space. Glasses praises Dongse, but he is clear-headed and defeats her in the real world. Dongse also logs out just in time to see the student that was being glazed messing with Sis King's capsule. He pushes him away and rushes to Sis King's side, asking if she's okay, and Glasses goes to bring the school doctors and teachers. While he goes to call them, Dongse lies Sis King on the ground and confronts the glazed one and his group, asking them why they did that, but they try to downplay it and retort that it's not as if she died. Dongse loses his cool and attacks the glazed one, punching him in the face. He is shocked and asks how dare he, Dongse, hit him, and Dongse replies that he will beat him until he learns his lesson. At this time, the teacher and the doctor pull up, and the teacher tells Dongse to stop, and Dongse thinks and agrees that it's more important to save Sis King. Then he tells the glazed one and his group to get lost, and they start to leave, with his henchmen supporting him on both sides, while he promises that Dongse will regret ever being born. The doctor gives Sis King a checkup and says she's fine and was just mildly electrocuted. The teacher says she's their best student and they can't let anything happen to her, then turns and asks Dongse why he was hitting the other students. Glasses pops up into the conversation and tells the teacher how they poured water into Sis King's capsule and would have worsened the situation if they hadn't stopped them in time. And the teacher says it was fortunate that they got there in time, but that Dongse might be in trouble because the glazed one, Fang Jie's parents, were A-rank rune monsters and might not let him off, and Glasses angrily says that it's obviously Fang Jie's fault. But the teacher says they won't care and then tells Dongse to take a few days off from school and rest till the matter blows over, that he'll see if he can resolve the issue, and Dongse says he understands and is sorry for troubling him. Dongse and Glasses are at the school gate watching the ambulance drive off, and Glasses comforts Dongse and says that the doctor said she'll be fine after a few days of rest. Then Dongse starts to leave, heading home, and tells Glasses that he doesn't need to comfort him, and that he'll become a rune master and use his fists to talk if the rune masters don't care about regular people. But Glasses quietly reports that he only has 27% rune spirit, and Dongse asks if he cannot destroy the atmosphere, and then tells him not to worry and to go back to class, then starts smirking while walking home, because with the help of the system, he's no more at just 27% rune spirit, and once again he said will definitely become a rune master. Meanwhile, at Dongse's apartment, the gangsters had tracked his house from the information that the shop owner Liu had given them, and Morning asked if they should call more brothers, but gets rocked and asked how many people they need to deal with a crippled girl, and he says he was wrong while crying. They get to Dongse's door, and Fatty Dragon and Morning lean in, trying to pick up any sound from inside, and tell Jia Wenlong that no one but the girl is inside. They then ring the doorbell. Inside, Jiaoji is reading a book and hears the bell, wondering if her big brother had come back already. She closes the book and remembers that if it was him, he wouldn't ring the bell because he had a key. At that moment, someone outside asks if anyone is home, and she asks who that is, and they tell her to open the door for a water meter check. She peeps through the lookout and replies that the water meter is outside. Outside the door, Morning tells Fatty Dragon that his tone was too fierce, and she wouldn't believe that they were there to check the water meter. He then uses a nice voice and says they are there for the delivery, and asks if she could open the door, but she tells them to just put the delivery items outside. They then try one more time, but they are still not allowed in. They are about to keep trying when a foot slams the door and it bursts open, revealing Jia Wenlong and the other two. He asks her what her name is, and she says Bai Xiaoji. And he asks why she has a different surname, and she says it's because she's adopted. Fatty Dragon then tells Jia Wenlong that he can't find the goods anywhere. Jia Wenlong pulls out a knife and tells Xiaoji that Dongzhe took something from them, and they will let her go if she told them where it is. Xiaoji is in tears and tells them she doesn't know what they're talking about, and Jia Wenlong says Dongzhe isn't coming home for another hour, and they will have enough time to get the information out of her. Out the corner of his eye, he spots the new toy Dongzhe just got for her and stabs it with a knife and asks her if she now understands what will happen to her. A shadow appears behind him and we hear someone cutting him out. He turns around and sees a fierce, fiery Dongzhe who tells him to get away from his sister. Zhaoji calls out to him and the two gangsters tell Jia Wenlong that he is Dongzhe. Then Jia Wenlong asks if he's a student that spoiled his plans and tells him to hand over the goods if he doesn't want to see his sister hurt. Dongzhe thinks he has to act cautiously to get Xiaoji out of danger first by giving them the eggs to placate them. He tells them that the eggs are in the storage room and they ask where it is. He points to his right and says it's over there, just beside the bedroom. And Jia Wenlong is mad that Morning and Fatty Dragon hadn't found it after all their searching. He yells and asks them what they are waiting for, then tells them to go bring the eggs. Fatty Dragon rushes forward and breaks down the door with a kick, sides the box and brings it to Jia Wenlong. He opens it and sees only 2 eggs and asks why there are only 2. Dongzhe explains that one egg hatched while he was on delivery, but Jia Wenlong shouts and asks if he thinks he's stupid, because if it really hatched, he won't be standing in front of him looking like that. Dongzhe reasons that even though he tells him he killed it, he won't believe, and Jia Wenlong tells him that the eggs are his gift to the minister. Then he puts his knife on Xiaoji's neck and tells Dongzhe to better return it or else he won't like what he will do. As he is talking to Dongzhe, Xiaoji bites his hand and he gets mad and throws a punch at her. The punch misses and hits the floor. Dongzhe had dived and rescued her just in time. Jia Wenlong is surprised, looks to his left and tells Fatty Dragon and Morning to capture him. Fatty Dragon bounces forward and tells Dongzhe to just give up, and Dongzhe does a flip and evades the attack, creating space between him and Fatty Dragon. Beads of sweat roll down Fatty Dragon's face, and he is shook. When the Dongze's reaction becomes so quick, not only him, even Dongzhe himself is shocked because he realizes that the potion he drank from the daily mission had increased his stats by 1, thereby increasing his combat ability. We see Dongze's new stats. He has reached level 3, and his rune spirit is up to 71%. Fatty Dragon approaches and lets out a barrage of punches, with Dongzhe dodging and causing them all to miss. And Dongzhe thinks that even though he isn't an F rank rune master yet, dodging the attacks aren't a problem because he added all his points to agility. Fatty Dragon is wheezing with his hands on his laps and asks Dongzhe if he only knows how to dodge, then asks his boss to give him 5 minutes to rest before continuing. Jia Wenlong isn't having it and criticizes him, calling him trash, and says he will handle it himself while activating a red runestone which morphs into a rune gun, and then points it at Dongzhe and tells him since he likes to dodge so much he should try to dodge this. Dongzhe's face turns serious as he realizes that he's also a rune master, and judging by his aura, he should be an E-rank rune master at least, like Uncle Zhao, his king's father. Dongzhe once again explains that the rune beast egg really did hatch, and he can't bring another from nowhere. But Jia Wenlong isn't listening to that and starts to talk about how the minister's son likes to raise rune monsters and how much effort he spent to bring them from the wild as a gift. He says they are the key to his future, and Dongzhe had just ruined his future. But Dongzhe says that he thought raising rune monsters in the city is a big crime, and Jia Wenlong criticizes him for being ignorant. Meanwhile, just behind Xiaoji, one of the rune beast's eggs starts cracking, and she tries to draw Dongzhe's attention, but he tells her to be quiet for a while, and Jia Wenlong calls her annoying and asks if she wants to die first. Then, a rune monster bursts out of the egg. Jia Wenlong turns to his right and notices it. It's a C-rank rune monster, the Dark-Scaled Viper. Even while being a hatchling, it's still much stronger than an adult E-rank rune monster. A shot flies out and hits it on the chest, and it hisses hysterically, puts its focus on Jia Wenlong and lunges forward. He jumps backward and starts sweating. He realizes that the house is too small for him to unleash his full strength. Dongzhe tells Xiaoji that they should leave, and she says okay. He tries to push her through the side, but is noticed and locked on to by the dark-scaled viper. His face turns ugly and he asks why it's suddenly targeting them, then immediately decides to lure it away, but he can't leave Xiaoji alone. Suddenly, he notices something. The monster doesn't attack and just remains there trembling. He then notices Xiaoji's outstretched arm and is surprised and asks if she's controlling it. We see her information. It turns out she's a genius beast tamer with 100% rune spirit who can communicate with monsters, tame them, and fight together with them by their side. At the moment, her face is not so good. She's frowning, and Dongse tells her that the rune monster's weakness is the Runestone on his forehead, and he doesn't have a weapon with him. He then tells her to make the dark-scaled viper attack the bad guys, and she agrees to try. Jia Wenlong tells his henchmen to leave the monster for the brats to deal with since it's too hard for them to. They both agree. Meanwhile, the dark-scaled viper charges up an attack, and Jia Wenlong identifies it as its death rune energy blast and smiles, saying that the brats are toast. Suddenly, it turns around. Jia Wenlong is startled as the blast approaches him. He ducks and the blast passes over his head, and a part of the building is completely destroyed. Dongze is excited and praises Xiaoji, but she suddenly passes out. Dongze understands that it must be very taxing for her to control a C-rank monster and hopes she didn't injure herself. A curse suddenly rings out. A bald Jia Wenlong is fuming and asks how they destroy his hair and ruin his face, and goes on to let a rapid fire of bullets out, which all hit the monster, with one striking its forehead, destroying its rune. Dongze said that runestones are beast's source of energy, and when it's destroyed, the beast is basically cooked. This dark-scaled viper is a newborn, so that's why he was so careless. Jia Wenlong curses out Dongze and says he will definitely make him pay for all the trouble he went through. At this time, someone calls out Dongze and Xiaoji's name and asks if they're alright, and Jia Wenlong turns to his right and asks who has come there to die. His King's father's face is revealed, and he asks what's going on. Jia Wenlong silently recalls his runestone, and he changes back from a gun. Zhao Wude notices him and asks what he's doing there, and he just says they came to check up on the kids and show concern, but his L-mans asks if they didn't come there to take back the eggs. Jia Wenlong punches him in the face and tells him to stop spouting rubbish, and is wary of why Zhao Wude was there. Zhao Wude then tells him that Dongze and his sister are under his protection, and they will have to face his martial hall if they dare cause problems for them again. And Jia Wenlong denies ever causing problems for them and asks Fatty Dragon to give them some allowance for the month. But Fatty Dragon replies that he doesn't have any money to give him. Jia Wenlong yells at him that he just gave him his salary a few days ago and he should use from it. Fatty Dragon gives some money to Dongze and the gangsters leave. But just before leaving, Jia Wenlong tells Dongze that he hopes he'll be there next time and not his sister, and then tells him that he will see him next time. Dongze thinks he's threatening him. Then Zhao Wude asks if Xiaoji is alright because he sees her passed out on her wheelchair. And Dongze replies that she's just tired. He thinks he shouldn't tell him about her being a beast tamer for now. Zhao Wude notices the dark-scaled viper's corpse and asks Dongze what happened, and Dongze decides to tell him about the eggs. After listening to the situation, Zhao Wude sighs and tells him that Jia Wenlong isn't easy to deal with because he managed King Shi's area's underground black boxing hall and knows a lot of powerful people. A bright early morning at Shaoxi Martial Hall, a few people are scattered around training, and Dongze is standing in front of a fist strength testing device. He breathes in and focuses in on the tester and throws a punch. The people around turn to him and are shocked by his strength. He doesn't think much of it and calculates exactly how strong he had become. His phone starts to ring. He picks up and it's his teacher on the other end, asking how he had been, and he says that he has been training his body. His teacher tells him that the school had reached a decision about his incident with Fang Jie and tells him to come to the school's academic affairs office, and he agrees to meet them there. He puts on his backpack and starts to head out of the martial hall, while hoping everything will be fine, since the exam is just 18 days away. Zhao Wude turns around, sees him leaving, and asks how much his fist strength is currently, and Dongze tells him to take a look at it himself and leaves. Zhao Wude wonders why he was so rude today, and the person beside him stutters as he draws his attention to the strength tester. To his shock, the tester shows a face strength of 462 kg. Cold sweat runs down his face as he realizes that Dongse had broken the human body limit. He wonders how he did it with just a 27% rune spirit. A short while later, Dongse gets to school and enters the academic affairs office. He apologizes to his teacher for being late and notices four other people apart from his teacher. Fang Jie looks at him and chuckles, and his teacher tells him to sit down, let them talk, but he says it's fine because he wants to return to class after the matter is settled. The academic affairs head says he's afraid that's not possible, and Dongse blows up and asks what he means. And he says the school has zero tolerance for violence against other students, so they had decided to expel him. Dongse asks why he's been expelled when it was Fang Jie who tried to harm another student, but the head rebukes him and says Fang Jie is an elite student of their school, while he, Dongse, is just a trash with 27% rune spirit. Fang Jie's mother agrees with the expulsion and says it's a waste for the school to spend its resources on him, and Fang Jie smiles and tells Dongse that he told him he will make him pay for hitting him. Dongse is fuming, balls his fist, and asks if it's because his rune spirit is so low that the head is shifting the blame to him and punishing him in Fang Jie's stead. His teacher by the side begs him to calm down and tells him not to provoke Fang Jie's parents and tells him to consider his sister. Dongse thinks about it and agrees with him. He had already put Xiaoji in danger before and wouldn't let it happen again. He says he understands and turns around and starts to leave the office. Fang Jie smirks and taunts him for giving up so easily, calling him a trash and laughing. Dongse turns slightly to his left and once again says he will definitely become a rune master, and Fang Jie's father criticizes him for overestimating himself and tells him that he can never become one because he is expelled and can't participate in the awakening ceremony. Dongse just says we will see about that and leaves. As he walks on the street, he sees two kids playing around as a rune master and a rune beast, and he thinks that Fang Jie's father is right, that he can't participate in the awakening ceremony because he's expelled. Anyone who wanted to awaken needed the help of the awakening crystal, but it requires a lot of energy, so it was decided that 15 days before the exam, the Rune Master Hall will send people to activate the awakening crystal and allow exam participants to awaken. That's why it's called the awakening ceremony. Someone suddenly calls his name from behind. It's Glasses and Sis King who are rushing forward. Dongse asks if they shouldn't be in class now, and Sis King says that after 3 days she didn't expect the result to be like this, and Glasses agrees and says they all know Fang Jie is bullying him using his parents. Sis King grabs his hand and tells him to come with her to the martial hall. Let her dad find a way. They get to the martial hall and Sis Cheng tells him about the situation and tells him that Dongse got expelled because of her and asks him to think of a way to enroll him back. Zhao Wude tells them that it's impossible to enroll back, but says that all is not lost and Dongse still has a chance to become a rune master. Dongse asks really, and he begins to explain that only those with at least 60% rune spirits can become rune masters, and not everyone with 60% rune spirit can become rune masters, which is why there are many people with 60% rune spirits but only a few rune masters. Dongse agrees and says his teacher said that 60% rune spirit is only a criteria for awakening, and higher rune spirit means higher chance of success. Zhao Wude says it costs a lot to activate the awakening stone, and that's why there are no second chances given to those who fail to awaken on their first try. Glasses is shocked and asks if there's such a rule, won't he be in danger? And Sis Cheng asks if he was ever paying attention in class. Zhao Wude asks them to stop arguing and continues on, saying that a lot of people failed each year, but not everyone admits defeat and gives up so easily, especially those with 60% rune spirit. They try other ways to awaken. Dongze asks what the other way is, and Zhao Wude replies, asking if he had ever heard of the awakening medicine. The three students are shocked and repeat the name.